All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the AI trading workshop presented by Composer. Composer is an AI trading platform that helps traders research, create, backtest, and automate trading algorithms, or symphonies, as we'd like to call it. It's a platform for creative investors, whether you want to build your own symphonies or browse existing ones built by others. Many composers have a portfolio of multiple symphonies running in parallel across stocks, ETF, and crypto. And we recently just launched options trading, just yesterday actually. So we'll touch on options trading as well in today's session. Now, before we begin, we do have a few important disclosures that I will just read. The content of this webinar is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, financial, legal, or tax advice. We will be discussing investment strategies and showing hypothetical, back-tested performance of algorithms. It is crucial to understand that all investing involves substantial risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance, whether actual or back-tested, is not a guarantee of future results. Please do your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. All right, let's get started. So I'm joined by Ronny, our Chief Data Officer and the man who's behind a lot of the AI development on Composer. I'll pass it over to him to give you an intro into AI trading and the Composer MCP.
Thanks, Michael. So welcome everyone to our first ever AI trading workshop. Today I'll be sharing some tips on how AI can help you make better investment decisions. So first off, what is AI trading? Basically, we're going to give an AI access to our brokerage account. In this case, we're going to give it access to Claude, so it can analyze our portfolio and suggest trades and even execute them, which I know sounds scary, but there are some safeguards you can put in place to prevent it from running wild with your money. Let me give a quick demonstration of what I'm talking about. So here I've got the Claude desktop app opened up, and it has the Composer MCP server installed. So what is an MCP server? It basically gives access to all these tools that now the AI can use depending on my requests and the context of the conversation. It might decide, okay, well, to answer that question, it'll be best if I use some of these tools that are available to me. So some of these tools are things like backtesting, getting stats, or investing in symphonies, and there's a lot more. So let's try testing this out. We're going to ask Claude to check how my portfolio is doing and check which of my holdings are contributing the most to my gain or loss, and if there's any relevant news that I should be aware of that explains this movement. The first thing that you see it do is there's this like box here, right, with the Composer logo. There's a couple of them. And these are the tools that the AI has decided are going to be useful to help it answer my question. And so some of them are like, first off, it's getting my account ID from Composer, and then it's checking my portfolio stats and getting my holdings, right? So it makes sense that these tools would help answer this question. So let's let it work for a little bit and see what it does. And actually you can click into them and then you'll see the data, like what it sent to our servers and then the response that it got back. And this is not, super easy for a human to read, but the AI will understand this. All right. So it completed a summary of my performance, and we can see some values like my portfolio is valued at about $4,900. Here's the total return so far and my gains for today. And if we check actually my Composer account, we will see that that number matches up, about 4,900 and about 4,900, right? So it's getting accurate information about my account. And you can imagine, like, let's say I did not have the Composer MCP server installed, and I asked it, like, how is my portfolio doing? It would have no idea. You would have to go open up your account, copy paste every single holding, right, in order to get a similar result. And something else that we see happening in this conversation is over here, where it actually searches the web to get additional information. And that is not a functionality that the Composer MCP server is offering. And that's not something you can do if you open up Composer on its own, right? So the other superpower of AI and MCP servers is the ability to mix and match them. So the web search functionality is something that is built into Claude itself. And it's using that in conjunction with Composer to create like this customized report for me. So to recap here, why we think AI is really useful for trading. One, it's great at synthesizing information. Really, that's great given how much data is out there. So we saw in that last example, it's pulled data from my portfolio and pulled data from the web and combined all of that, right? And then also AI is very flexible. So you can create really customized experiences. So like we saw, it searched the web, right, to also combine that information with my holdings data. But you can extend that even more, right? You can add other MCP servers that provide other functionality and combine all of them together. Somebody messaged me on Twitter. They wanted to use a voice generation MCP server, so that way Composer could talk back to them like a real person. And I don't necessarily know why they wanted to do that, right? But it's cool. And maybe they drive around a lot, and so they don't have any hands-free to use the app or to click on their laptop. So the voice interface for Composer is what they want, right? And lastly, it's important to realize that AI is improving at a crazy pace. Microsoft's CEO estimated that the performance is doubling every 6 months. So if you walk away from this workshop, you're not impressed, check back in a few months. You might be surprised. Of course, I have to give some disclaimers. So AI is definitely not a super genius. I prefer to think of it like it's average at everything. So in my mind, I think of it like an intern that is very eager, but not super bright, to be honest. But I'm not trying to bum you out. It is actually still useful. So first off, if you are not particularly good at something, then AI being average at that thing will still be better at it than you are. So an example for me, I'm not very good at French. If I had to write an email in French, I would ask AI to do it for me. And secondly, even if you are good at something, but that task is, kind of low to medium complexity, it's very repetitive, it's very time consuming, that's also another case to ask AI to do it for you. And I'll give an example of that later in this workshop. So if you internalize that AI is like an intern, actually, real quick, I want to mention, if you internalize that AI is like an intern, I think that's how you're going to get the best results from using it. So if you think it's a super genius, your expectations are too high, you'll quickly get disappointed. If you think it's useless for everything, then you'll dismiss it too quickly and you won't use it enough, right? So thinking of it as like average intelligence will calibrate you at the right level. And I think it'll also help you formulate your requests clearly to AI, right? Like imagine if you were talking to a 16-year-old trying to get it to do something versus like somebody with decades of experience, right? With a 16-year-old, you would formulate your requests, you would spell things out a lot more to them, right? So I think that's how you should be talking to AI. So continuing that intern kind of analogy, it's important to remember that AI can make really, really dumb mistakes. So keep that in mind. Never blindly trust what it suggests. And if it's a high impact decision, definitely verify its sources, double check its work. And finally, I want to warn you that we are entering very uncharted territory. This is really new, this field that we're in. So all the rules, best practices, everything is just being done on the fly. So it's going to be a bumpy ride. Like for example, Claude was just down a few hours ago. So hopefully that doesn't happen in this next hour that we have. But now I will pass it off to Michael to talk about the agenda for today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ronnie. Yes, so considering that this is our first workshop, we've kind of built this agenda for today. First, we're just going to go ahead and set up the Composer MCP and walk you through that process, because that's really the foundation that makes everything else possible for the rest of this workshop, right? And once that's in place, we'll tackle one of the most common questions that composers ask, which is, what symphony should I pick? What symphony should I invest in? And we'll show you how AI can surface strategies tailored to your goals. From there, we'll go a level deeper. AI can also break down a single symphony, so you can ask AI to explain it to you, like what should I consider before investing, and it can also compare all of your invested symphonies across your portfolio. So we'll demonstrate that. Then we'll zoom out a little bit. I think many traders, especially if you look into the real world at hedge funds, they don't run just one strategy, right? They run multiple in parallel. So we'll explore how AI can combine symphonies and combine strategies into a diversified, uncorrelated, and multi-strategy portfolio. And finally, since options trading is just now live on Composer, we'll wrap it up with how to use AI to generate options trade ideas, specifically as a hedge against everything we've created throughout the workshop. Lastly, I do want to speak to security and privacy. Claude can only access your account and take action after you grant explicit permission, and you can revoke access at any time from your Claude settings. I would strongly recommend you to not select always allow for tools that can execute trades. But when trades are executed, they are always executed through Composer's secure brokerage connections. Awesome. So that's it from my side. Back to you, Ronnie.
Well, thanks, Mike. So let's go through setting up. Go to Composer-Trade-MCP, and at the bottom, we will see a video that goes through the setup process. And it's really fast, as you'll see. Before playing this video, I just want to mention that you'll need to have Claude Desktop set up, and then also I would really recommend using the Max plan on Claude. You can get away with the Pro plan, but you'll only really have a few messages before you run out of credits, and that's because our MCP server is quite heavy in order to explain how all the symphonies works and things like that. So it really uses up the context very quickly. But and if you don't have the Max plan or the Pro plan, and there's no problem, watch this workshop and determine whether you're interested in having those. Cool. So let's get started here. First thing you're going to want to do is go to the Claude settings. So you can click Claude at the top left, go to the settings, and then in the left-hand sidebar, there's this connectors button. You can click that, and then you'll see an Add Custom Connectors button at the bottom. So if you select that, and then enter in Composer into the name field, then in the URL field, you can put in https://ai.composer.trade/mcp. So once you enter that in, there'll be a button that says Connect. You'll click that, and you'll see this page here, the Sign into Composer. And then you can enter in your username and password. You might get asked for text code as well. And then you'll go back. It'll automatically open up Claude again. And you'll be able to tell if you're connected by clicking this Search and Tools button. And it kind of has, looks like these two sliders. And if you see Composer with that blue circle there, then you're good. But if you don't see it, actually, sometimes this happens to me. You got to just quit and reopen Claude a few times. Now that we have that set up, what's next? Well, like Michael mentioned, very common question for new users is, what should I invest in? We do have that Discover page. I can pull that up. We do have a Discover page. It's got a couple thousand symphonies in there, but we don't really give you much else other than this. Like, there are these stats. It's really hard and overwhelming for a new person to figure out what to invest in. And the MCP server can help you make that decision. So let's pull up this example prompt here. And this prompt that I have actually kind of developed it in conjunction with AI. Like, first I asked it, well, what's the best composer symphony for me to invest in? And that sort of sparked this conversation. It's like, what does best mean for me, right? And after iterating on that, we realized, okay, well, I'm trying to target, I want to have at least the same returns as SPY, but then with the lowest drawdowns given that constraints, right? So we kind of like landed on my own risk reward profile. So that's what this prompt is doing. It's asking it to search through the database and provide a list of the top 20 symphonies with at least 1 year of out of sample data, so we have enough data to work with. And what's the lowest drawdowns that still beat SPY. And it's going to call this Search Symphonies tool a couple times and produce a report for us. Let's see, I think we'll have time for one question while it's doing this, Michael.
Yep. So there was a question from Nimesh, showed on stream, but are you able to connect multiple Composer accounts to one Claude Pro account?
I have actually not tried that, but I think you could. Like, if you maybe click that Add Custom Connector button and then just gave it a different name, Composer Account 1, but then still use that same remote URL. And then when you signed in, you entered in different credentials. I think it should work. Let me know if it doesn't. That's a really good question.
Yep.
Cool. So we see that it's searched through symphonies a couple times and produce this list. And you can actually click this View Symphony button here to open up what we call the fact sheet to see the graph of its performance and other stats. And so this strategy here, it is beating SPY over this time period, and it does have really low drawdown. Like, probably the only drawdown is over here, right? So it meets our criteria. We can see that the way that it's beating SPY is interesting. It's just like kind of flat most of the time, and every now and then it pops up, right? So it's up to you, your own personal preference, if that's the type of strategy that you're interested in. I know for myself, I'm not patient enough to wait during these periods where it's very flat. I'm invested in a couple of strategies like this, and you'll see, I'll show later. I don't have that patience. So let's keep looking. Let's try this one. Okay, here's another kind of that popping type of strategy. Let's skip that. Okay, this one looks a bit more like what I was thinking of. So it's the performance is very similar to SPY, the pink line, but you can see that during periods where SPY is drawing down, that it is actually managing to avoid those situations. So it's kind of, this is matching what I was hoping for. If we look at like kind of the maximum backtest period, we can see that it just has a very low drawdown in general. SPY's drawdown was like 50% during this time period, whereas the strategy is at 13%. And then let's see, during the OOS period, SPY was down 19%, whereas this was down 7.5%, right? Even despite all the tariff stuff. So this looks pretty interesting. Let's ask, so what is that? That's number 4, right? Let's say, explain Symphony number 4 to me. What is its investment thesis? And are there anything I should be aware of right before I invest in it? So it is going to pull some additional data about just that symphony. In particular, it's going to get what we call the symphony structure. So if you open this up down here, it's going to pull this and interpret it for me. Seems like it was designed to navigate the 2008 crisis, and it involves some mean reversion. There's some trend following here, and it has some considerations that is relatively complex, which might be a sign of being overfit. It uses leverage ETFs and things like that. So that could be a concern for me, which it's not. So let's say invest 100. Invest 100 into this symphony. Okay, so give it a little bit here. I think we'll probably have time for another question.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there is a small conversation going on in the chat actually. And I think, we've kind of talked about this as well, in how you talked about, AI being like an intern. So somebody actually asked, this doesn't seem like it's finding an edge or alpha. It's just searching the database of what people have already created. Shouldn't we use AI to develop new edges? And then Jose actually asked, said, how is this not great already? How long it took before, or even possible, like navigating the data in Discord to get something that still sucks. I absolutely love this. So curious if you have a response to that.
Yeah. So if you think about the way I think about AI is it's like average intelligence intern. So I probably wouldn't ask an intern to, figure out how to design a strategy that how to get alpha, right? So that's the way I view it. There actually are some people who are testing that out, whether things like GPT-5 can actually generate alpha. And, you can ask it, that's something you can ask it, build me a symphony that that will perform amazing, right? That's something you can ask. It will build you something, but whether that symphony actually does perform that well is a different question.
And also I would add to that, I think with a lot of the symphonies in the database, they have live performance. So you can actually, that's something that you can trust, right? So you can, in this case, we, in the prompt, we searched for specific symphonies that have out of sample data, right? So if you just ask AI to create a symphony for you, there is still no live performance. So it has not been tested live.
Yeah,
that's also another point.
Yeah, exactly. The out of sample performance. Yeah. So we definitely have a bunch of symphonies that have over a year, maybe 2 years or longer of out of sample performance, right? So it's more trustworthy than something that AI just spits out. So yeah, that's why I think of it like an intern. Cool. But yeah, there's nothing stopping you from trying. Yeah, if you try it, see what happens. You might have a viral Twitter thread, that comes from that. Cool. Yep. So we can see that it's finished the investment here. And if we check Composer, my portfolio, we should see, yes, that symphony has a pending $100 investment that's controlled entirely through AI. Okay, let's imagine now that I've invested in a few symphonies, right? And I've been trading now for a few weeks. It's pretty natural to ask, how are they doing, right? And of course, you can check your portfolio page and you'll get a basic idea of which symphonies are doing well, right? Like these ones at the top are doing well, these ones at the bottom are doing really terribly, and so that will work. But there's a whole range of symphonies in the middle here where like the performance is kind of flat and it's not obvious right off the bat whether it's doing well or not. So we actually think this type of question will be common enough that we pre-save this prompt. So you click this plus sign here, and then this add from Composer. There's 2 pre-saved prompts. We can definitely add more, but right now there's 2. This one that says compare live versus backtest. If you double click into there, you'll see the prompt, the full prompt. And it says, compare my live performance for each symphony against the backtest over the same time period. Also compare against SPY over the same time period, and then calculate 2 additional columns, which are my live performance versus the backtest and my live performance versus SPY. And then the rest of the stuff here just helps it avoid some mistakes that I've seen it make in the past. So let's run that. And this is an example of something that's like kind of simple, but very repetitive and time consuming. Like I mentioned earlier, that's really perfect for AI to do for me. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to grab my live trading performance. And then what it'll do is it will backtest every single one of my symphonies one by one over the exact same time period as their live trading counterpart. And then it'll produce a table for me at the end. So this will take a bit of time. So we definitely have time for some more questions, Mike.
Yep, I'm actually just looking through the questions. So I'm just gonna go from like the top down. So I guess one question here that I just kind of see like right off the bat. Is there any way to leave the MCP logged out until you want to use it? Should someone else get access to my computer, I'd like it not to be authorized. By the way, I'm testing in Cursor.
Got it. Well, let's see. So you can disable from here. So if you click, and Cursor would have a kind of similar interface, the ability to disable. So there's this button here, disable all tools. So you can do that. It's not the same thing as logging out though, because if somebody else accesses your computer and then they just click that button to re-enable, then they would still have access to your account. So I think there's no like automatic way to turn that off as far as I know. So yeah, good question though.
Got it. Okay, another question from TB. He asked, like, can a symphony be created based on fundamentals, balance sheet, etc. of stock screens?
Yeah, it is possible. You would probably have to tweak that prompt and like kind of iterate on that prompt a bit. So basically the tools that you would have access to by default. So first off, you would have the Composer MCP server, and then you would have the ability to search the web. So you can ask the AI and kind of direct it to the right online sources. So if it's publicly available on the web and your prompt can direct the AI to get there, then yes, you'll be able to construct symphonies in that way. Alternatively, there's almost certainly other MCP servers out there where they might focus more on fundamental data. And so you can add that in. And once you have that, then you can combine the two, right? So it's possible.
Justin asked, like, so when you invested $100, he asked, like, how does it invest only $100? Is it able to use fractional shares?
Yes, it's able to use fractional shares, yeah. Well, some assets are not fractionable, but most of them are. So yes, it's able to purchase fractional.
Cool, let me see if there's any other questions.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
This is definitely long. As you can see, I have a lot of symphonies that needs to backtest one by one.
Victor also asked, can we have other models interact with the MCP server?
Yes. So it all depends on whether that particular LLM like supports MCP. So the funny thing is actually ChatGPT does not have good support for MCP. It's like on the surface, they say that they do, but actually they only let you connect MCPs that have at most 2 tools. And as you saw, we have like nearly 30 tools, right? So I don't know why they implemented it that way, but yeah. So it depends on the level of support that each model has. But as long as it does support it, you can use it.
Great. Joe also asked, why not build this directly in the Composer interface?
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is definitely a good idea. We definitely should do it. There's no denying that. It's limited resources, so yeah, that's the only answer I have for you there. But in the meantime, we provide these other workarounds.
Yeah, but there is something working in the background. So stay up to date by following our newsletters and all of that. So cool. Looks like it's generating something now.
Yeah, it's going a bit slow. We probably do have time for another one. Well, no, okay, it's speeding up now. All right, cool. So we see it's now producing this table after running each of those backtests. And we have one row per symphony. And for each of those symphonies, we have the live performance, the backtest over the same time period, SPY over the same time period, and then the deviation for live versus backtest and live versus SPY. So we can see for these first three that they are all like beating the pants off of SPY, which is great. But the one that's standing out to me the most is this third one here, where its deviation against the backtest is really low. And that is a strong indicator. Because one of the things that you worry about with backtesting, right, is whether it's overfit and whether it's going to translate to the real world. And what we're seeing with this symphony is that it is, in fact, translating into real performance. So that really increases my confidence in this strategy, and I'm more inclined to increase my investment into this in the future. On the flip side, let's look at some of the poor performing strategies here. So these two at the bottom, that we saw in Composer on our portfolio page that these two were definitely noticeably weak. So this is the live performance. It's not doing great, while at the same time SPY in this third column or fourth column was relatively flat, right? So these are pretty bad. But then if we look at the three symphonies above, they had all like pretty flat live performance, maybe a little bit positive, a little bit negative. But where they really differentiate, where you start to see differences between them, is when you adjust to look at how SPY did over the same time period. So 2 out of these 3, SPY was doing really well, whereas in this middle one here, SPY was pretty flat. So when we adjust for that, we can start seeing that 2 out of the 3 have really low performance versus SPY, whereas this middle one is doing okay and should be given some more time to prove itself. So you could, maybe this is making you think, okay, I should liquidate these 2 symphonies. But a wrinkle in that decision is that the deviation from the backtest is actually really low. So that's an indication that these strategies are doing what the backtest kind of expected them to do, right? Or what they were meant to do. In fact, if you were to open up these symphonies, you would see they might be the type that's really flat for a while, then pops up, or just generally have really low risk, and they're sort of meant to be underperforming SPY. So, on the other hand, you might decide, okay, actually they're doing what they're supposed to do. I might keep them. But for me, anyway, I don't have the patience for these ones, as I mentioned earlier, so I might liquidate them. But yeah, so all 4 of these are candidates, I think, for being liquidated. Let's do this just memes one. So we'll do that now and let that run, just to show that you can control, just to continue showing that you can control Composer through here. And you can click to open it up, see the symphony that's selecting there. Okay, and now it's done. So if we were to check Composer, I think, yeah, we don't see it anymore in this section. So it's gone now. And yeah, that's what I had to show. Although before I pass it off to Michael, there's one last little tip to share, which is how to use AI to actually teach you how to use AI. So let me share a prompt here. If you think about it, there's actually like no better source for how to use the MCP server and all the tools that it has other than Claude, right? So you can just ask it how to use these tools. So my prompt is, how can you use all the tools at your disposal to help me invest my money more effectively? Be creative, but not so creative that you're making up something ridiculous. And then be thorough and think about interesting combinations of tools. So I've used similar prompts like this in the past to come up with really interesting use cases. Like I think I asked it how to use the options tools in a really creative way, right? And it came up with analyzing the options chain, calculating things like put-call ratio, stuff like that, to determine whether the assets that I'm holding, like the non-options assets, if the market is overall bullish or bearish on those things. And you can extend the idea even further. Like you can ask Claude to project which trades your symphonies are planning to make later today, then run that same analysis, right? And determine, say, okay, this symphony wants to sell asset A and purchase asset B, but the market is actually bearish on asset B, right? So maybe I should intervene and tell it to skip trading today, right? So That's just an example of really cool. I didn't come up with that. AI came up with that for me. So this prompt here, I think it's a little bit too vague and too broad to get that same type of result, but I think it's still really useful to quickly get the lay of the land for the tools that you have, especially if you just installed the MCP server for the first time. I think this is a good one. So here it's running and breaking down like the really basic use cases for Composer. You can backtest strategies, you can search through the database, monitor your portfolio, and execute trades, right? And then it starts thinking about ways to combine things. You can use web search to look up economic indicators. Then you can also use this analysis tool to execute code. And I think in a previous time that I ran that prompt, it said it could do stuff like Monte Carlo simulation, things like that. So I mean, that'd be cool. It says here, oh yeah, using the options chain to analyze that and then create symphonies based off of that data, which is really interesting. Identify market sentiment using put call ratios and implied volatility, then create symphonies that with their allocations based off of that data. So yeah, this is just a way that you can discover new use cases for yourself without having to wait for our next workshop. And with that, I will pass it off to Michael to show some other use cases.
Okay, so now we're going to try to use AI to build a uncorrelated multi-strategy portfolio. I think, like I said before, in the real world, especially if you're looking at hedge funds, success rarely comes from one single home run strategy, right? Instead, you can build a portfolio of uncorrelated strategies so that different algos can work in different market conditions. And actually in our last webinar with Enders Capital, which is a hedge fund that runs a lot of its trading algorithms on Composer, this is like a key concept that's at the core of their fund. And I think this is also in line with Ray Dalio's holy grail of investing, which is basically the idea that you can reduce risk without sacrificing returns by combining many uncorrelated investments. And I think the key insight from Dalio is that with about 15 to 20 well-diversified uncorrelated bets, you can lower risk by around 80% while still keeping strong returns. So that's what we're going to try to do now with this prompt. So the prompt is, you're running a small hedge fund and you want to create a resilient multi-strategy portfolio. Select a couple of strategies from the Composer database that look different in style. So you have like momentum, mean reversion, sector rotation, etc. And give me the link to each of them. Summarize its strengths and weaknesses, suggest how they might complement each other, and also create an allocation plan that aims for low correlation between those strategies. So let's try it out. Okay, so it's searching through the Composer database right now. And after Claude shows me or gives me all these ideas, we can also take this a step further to like backtest each of these symphonies individually. And we'll also pair it with other tools within the Composer ecosystem, which I think is really interesting because I think like AI, right, is just one of the tools that you can use to support your experience on the Composer platform. Okay, great. So it's selected a few strategies for me. Got 1, 2, 4. Okay, great. So it's got 5 strategies for me. Assume that I went through all the back tests. I looked at all of these in detail and, did my research. I'm now going to try to put these into another tool called My Maestro, and I will show you that. Let me share my other screen. Okay, so My Maestro is a community-built tool by a person named Coldernaut. It's a really useful tool where you can like analyze your symphonies within a portfolio. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy paste all the symphonies that Claude suggested. Give me a second here. So I currently have SPY. Then I'll do this first one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, so let's choose prior 3 years and analyze. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do like a very simple analysis here. You can also explore all of these later on at your own time. But as you can see, that this is the portfolio, equal weight. Then you have some of the other ones. You have the S&P benchmark, which I believe is this one here. So you have this yellow line kind of close to the mean here that's outperforming the S&P 500 benchmark, which is this line here, right? You can kind of zoom in a little bit closer by doing this. But yeah, just wanted to demonstrate how you can use AI plus existing tools within the Composer ecosystem. Coming to our last demonstration on Claude, we're going to talk about options. So we recently launched options, and we're going to try to Well, first off, let me back up a bit. So the demos that Ronnie did and the ones that I did, we kind of all we already created like a portfolio of symphonies, or if you have multiple symphonies in your Composer account. But let's say that you're anticipating a scenario where the market is going to drop maybe 10% in like the next 90 days. How can I use Composer options to hedge out that risk? So that's what we're going to try to do with the MCP server and Claude. We're going to ask AI to help us do that, or at least give us some ideas. So the prompt is, how could I protect my portfolio with Composer options against the worst case scenario where everything drops more than 10% in the next 90 days? Let's try it. Okay, so it's looking through my holdings. Okay.
Jose said that's a beautiful and scary prompt. I need to screenshot that.
I saw that.
There'll be a recording of this presentation later. So yeah, you can see all the prompts that we used.
Yep, and we'll also share the prompts in writing as well.
Yeah, drop in the prompts into GitHub. Yeah, we do have in GitHub this. There's a file in there that says awesome prompts. We can put these in there. They're not in there right now, but we can add that.
Okay, cool. So we have some recommendations for our option strategy. Or let's see. So we have a couple. I'm not gonna go through them right now, but let's assume that I did some research. I looked into like the different scenarios, and I thought, okay, direct SPY put protection would make sense the most for me. So I can just go ahead right inside the app, right inside the chat box, say execute. I'll just copy this one.
So Gyro is asking, sorry if I mispronounced the name. Can it look across multiple symphonies to find trades that are offsetting each other? So for example, long versus short on the same ETF, and delete trades and avoid slippage. So it could, I don't know if it can get that specific, but for example, since you can preview the upcoming trades across all your symphonies, you could prompt it to warn you about that type of situation that it sees in your upcoming trades. And then to delete them, that's interesting. Yeah, I can't think of a way to do that right now. Yeah, it's nothing in the top of my head. Yes, I would say that maybe you see that situation and you can tell those symphonies to skip trading today, something like that.
Okay, cool. Well, the order was executed. The options order was executed. So yeah, just wanted to demonstrate that. You can also do that with options. But that concludes what we had on the agenda for today. Now I think we have last 10 minutes, so we can use that time to answer any remaining questions.
Yeah, actually, on the last question I was just answering, if you have two symphonies and one is trying to sell Apple and another is trying to buy Apple, we will automatically cancel those out. So that will happen. I think I was thinking a different level where if one symphony wanted to buy SQQQ and another one wanted to buy TQQQ, then maybe we don't have something that's like offsetting that. So what if Claude hallucinates when placing an order? So there is the ability to set all the tools to always ask you for permission before you run them. And if you do that, then, and you can set certain tools to always run, like you don't need to give it permission. But for things like investing or placing an order, you should definitely set it to always ask you for permission. And then a window will pop up before that runs, and it'll show you what it intends to do. Like you can click to inspect what it plans to do in case it hallucinates the order.
Yeah, I can show you here as well. So like right from the prompt menu, you can also click this thing here, and then if you click into the Composer MCP, you'll see all these checked. So or you can disable all the tools. And I think if you go to settings,
go to connectors there, and then click configure.
Configure, yep.
And then each of these tools you can set to either always ask for permission or to allow them to run unsupervised.
Yep, exactly.
Is there any way to hook up Composer MCP to the mobile app? Yes, there is. So there's a Claude iOS app, and if you follow the setup that we shared here, then it will automatically open up and it'll automatically be available in the Claude iOS app. So that's super fun. And that's also why I pre-saved some prompts, because the one that I showed you was super long. I didn't feel like typing it out. It was something I wanted to run all the time. Yeah, could we give Claude a reference table of offsetting ETFs? Yeah, that's definitely possible. So we don't have that right now. It's a good idea. We could maybe like pre-save a prompt that is like that, that already contains that information in the context. Yeah, if you draft up some prompt, if you test out some prompts and come up with something good, share it with us. If we ask the AI to rebalance every hour, can it do this? You would probably, the answer is actually yes, but you'd have to do it. There's a blog post that I did a few weeks ago where I shared the ability to how you can use this tool called N8N. Maybe Michael, if you can find that blog post and share the link. It allows you to like kind of trigger AI in an automatic fashion. And so you could use that to come up with like, let's say hourly trigger that prompts our MCP server to rebalance every time it runs. So I know it's a bit roundabout, but it is possible.
Yeah, just kind of sharing that on screen right now.
Yeah, cool, thank you. So I have a 60-40, so let's see, TB says I have a 60-40 portfolio. Could I build this into a symphony to track deviation from expectation? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Is there ability to have trades report for advisor? We should have a trading report for you as well in Composer. But maybe you should, you can maybe reach out to our support team and they can give you more information there. Yeah, AI for intraday trading. Yeah, so right now you can trigger it manually through Claude, or you can use that blog post that I shared to trigger it on an automatic basis, like hourly or so. And that's what we have right now, but we're working on more ways.
Nice suggestion, Jose.
Cool. Yeah, or just deposit 25K. That's right.
Yeah, cool. It looks like I think we've answered all the questions, unless there's any.
Claude create a stress test. Yeah, you know what? So the question was, could Claude/Composer create a stress test where you look at a symphony and adjust all variables up and down by some percentage and do some backtest runs to check how the performance changes by those adjustments? You definitely could. You definitely could. I have tested it and it didn't really work for me the first time. So it's like, once again, prompt engineering is actually like a useful skill nowadays. You're gonna have to tweak it. You know, every time it makes a mistake, try running that prompt again and say something along the lines of like, you know, tip, don't do this, right? Don't do this dumb mistake. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the basics of prompt engineering. And maybe you'll land on an approach that'll work.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's wrap it up here. Really appreciate your time, Ronny, to come and demo and
thanks to
really share all these insights with us.
Yeah,
and thank you everybody for joining.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I want to say too. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, stay tuned for our next one. And yeah, keep an eye out for our newsletters in the future. Thanks, guys.